Okay, welcome back to Johnny's Car Care and Reviews. I'm Johnny, and this is your co-host, Winston. He's straight in from the pool, and as soon as I'm done this little intro, he'll be back in the pool where he likes to be. Now, we're going to be doing the hands-on, step-by-step build and price of a Lariat, so we'll cover all those options. Now, this is a continuation of the last video, and I'd like to point out the last video as well as after this intro. This was filmed at the very beginning of the week. Actually, it was last Sunday or Monday from recollection. And anyways, that's not all very important. What is important is that since then there have been changes. Ford has announced that 4K towing will only be available on the all-wheel drive. So really important to note. And I'd like to mention, in the last video, I mentioned that some sources were we're describing the 4K towing as being best used when accompanied with an EcoBoost engine. Now, I kind of got called out on this one, and someone mentioned that no one has ever said this. Now, my goal here is to do my best to help you all out. These videos do not pay the bills. I'm a small channel, and I'm usually spending anywhere from 4 hours to 10 hours plus building each video. So I'm doing my absolute best, and that's why I need all your help to help get the right info out. If ever I make a mistake or there's info to add, please throw it in the comments section, and when possible, throw in a link. But back on that subject, I normally would not, put a source from somewhere else. I don't like calling anyone out, I guess is what I'm trying to say. I don't like to call out other sources, media sources. But take my word for it. I guess this one time, hopefully only this one time, or that it rarely happens, I will accompany on the side, either side here, where I got that. I'm not necessarily saying that it's incorrectly, it's misleading. I'm just saying that it's open to an interpretation that isn't entirely clear. So I read through that and I said, well, I think someone could read this and think, kind of assume that if they're saying it's best to have the 4K towing on an EcoBoost, that it's possible to have it without the EcoBoost. But I'll put it up right here, and maybe my interpretation of this, or finding that it was too open of open to wrongful interpretation. Maybe I'm completely wrong with this, and that's fine. But anyways, I want to apologize for any confusion I myself may have caused, and just want to clarify that I was trying to clarify a potential point of confusion. I strongly believe we all need to work together, as no one can ever possibly, possibly read and listen to every piece of information out there. It's impossible. So we all need to work together, and please use sources and links to help everyone save some time. Now, I would not usually do this, but like I said, one of those outside sources, I'll just put it on the side here to show that, I'm never just going to be trying to say stuff to get attention just for the sake of it. I don't want to mislead anyone. My goal really is to help out, and if ever I make a mistake and I don't reach my goal, please point it out. The nicer you point it out, if you keep it classy, I certainly will appreciate it. I think that, generally on the internet, the whole internet as a whole could benefit greatly from everyone trying to keep it classy and being just a little friendlier and nicer to one another. I see the internet, and especially YouTube, as a great community where we can learn together, we can grow together. And for those of you that are following the channel, thank you for following me and watching me as we learn and grow together. So let's put the pedal to the metal and get to building step by step a Lariat Maverick. Keep in mind, I filmed this at the beginning of the week, so take it easy on me if there is a piece of info that is not up to date. Of course, I'll try to catch it with a little, wording. These days, things change so quickly, and on that note, I'd presume there is still a chance that in later years, front-wheel drive towing could be offered with the 2-liter EcoBoost. And I'm just saying could. I'm not saying this is going to happen. I honestly do not have any source to say that this is possible, but heck, they already said it would be a late availability, and now they're saying it's not going to happen. I'd take that as not going to happen for the time being, because if it was originally a late availability, I have to assume that means it's possible but they're just not going to do it now. And definitely I could say one thing I love about Ford is that Ford is so very much about, offering different strokes for different folks. They like to offer a product that's going to appeal to everybody by offering, different transmissions, different engines, different setups. Now, the Maverick only comes as a 4-door, and that's bothering some people, but there is the Ranger, and of course you could always go with regular cab F-150, and if you do go 2x4, well, that does definitely lower the price and isn't your typical Super Crew F-150 that, does cost a pretty penny, but is it's an amazing machine. I love them. I've had a whole bunch of them, and they've never let me down, even when I was getting near 300,000 kilometers on a 2011 EcoBoost. That's just my personal experience. Now, I just want to reiterate, this is why I think there's, potential for a front-wheel drive 2-liter EcoBoost that can tow 4,000 pounds later. I'm going to repeat, it's not happening now. It's been pulled off. It was supposed to be late availability, but in my experience over the years, I've often seen, options that are late availability get pushed on to later years anyways, either the next year or sometimes, 2 years later. So I've seen this happen in the past. Now, from what we can tell, Ford is saying, they're not giving more info than just saying, currently you can't have front wheel drive with 4K. Is it gonna come back? I hope so, and this is why I hope so. It's all about the different strokes for different folks. One of the commentators to my last video pointed out that the main reason they wanted a Maverick is because it can pull 4,000 pounds and would come in at, a great price, a price that makes a lot of sense to them. So I really hope that, for their sake and for everyone who wants a truck that's got a bed and can pull 4,000 pounds and doesn't require adding on that all-wheel drive, because you'll see in the video, adding all-wheel drive to the front-wheel drive EcoBoost definitely does bring up the price, and you'll see specifically in the video by how much that price goes up. So, that was righteously pointed out by the commentator. Let's grip it, let's stick it, and shift right into the build and price. And I'm going to take you step by step, going through all the options, and we'll also be covering, a bit of talk about leasing versus purchasing. Which one's jump right in? So starting off the build and price, you've got your first choice that presents itself with the Lariat. Now you've got a starting price of $25,490. Now of course that's without the $1,500 of transport and handling. And you've got to pick whether you go with the 2.5 liter hybrid engine, or if you add about $1,000, you've got the 2-liter EcoBoost engine. Now of course that $1,000 gives you front wheel drive. Now, if you're thinking you're going to hold off and wait for an all-wheel drive hybrid, I'd say you're probably going to get that in the next couple of years. And I'd even say that you're probably going to we're all going to get a plug-in front wheel drive in the next couple of years. I hope Ford doesn't wait until the next model, until generation 2. But it doesn't seem that complicated because already there's space for a second battery in the vehicle. So I'd say plug-in, maybe a little further down the road, but an all-wheel drive hybrid, I think we can expect that within a couple of years. So, maybe this will help you decide to hold off, but I think that these Mavericks are gonna have good resale value. I don't think they're gonna depreciate like crazy. So I think it'd be a good vehicle to, let's say, lease for 4 years and, plan on maybe switching it within 2 years. I know currently F-150s and Ford Rangers, you're on a 4-year lease and it's been 2 years, well, you've got something where you'll either break even with your amount owing, the amount that needs to be cleared to, buy out the lease, or in actually a lot of cases recently, you actually have positive equity or cash to put on your next deal. So that can be interesting. So just keep that in mind. Let's start off with building the 2.5 liter hybrid engine, keeping in mind that it's an extra $1,000 had we gone with a 2-liter turbo. So carrying on, what are you getting with the Lariat, and why would you consider getting it over an XLT luxury? Well, in Canada, you're definitely not going to consider it because it's going to cost, I'll cover the price, but from recollection, it's about $8,000 because in Canada, if you want a Maverick Lariat, you have to have it as an all-wheel drive and you have to have it as a 2-liter turbo. So I don't know why that's going on, but it's not that great. But if you're in the US, don't worry about it. if you're looking at an XLT luxury package versus a Lariat, I'll put the exact price, but there's about $1,500 of difference. And you definitely aren't getting the spray-in bed liner the way you will on the XLT luxury package. And you're gonna be missing a few things that the luxury package has that we'll add in just a moment. So once you really compare apples to apples, the difference is probably more about $2,500. But the 500A luxury package, the big one that it has that you might really want to go with is the ActiveX material. And with the 500A Lariat. So what are you getting on a standard Lariat? Well, you're getting LED signature lighting. You're getting intelligent access with push buttons. So that means the handle is going to have little lines on it. You put your thumb on it. If the key's on you, you'll lock the door. If you put your hand inside the handle slot, well, it's going to unlock the doors. And then when you get in, you put your foot on the brake, you push a button, and you start the vehicle. So you don't have really a physical key that you really need to do anything other than keep it on your person. You also have dual zone electric automatic temperature control. So this is perfect to avoid arguments about what temperature to have the front. You know, the driver and the passenger each get to have their own temperature, because in couples, how many people actually get along with what temperature to put the house or the vehicle? I think this is probably the most common argument point that couples have. So you're going to avoid some arguments with the Lariat, and I like the sounds of that. Now you've got the power sliding rear window. Recall, this was only about $140 or $150 on the XLT, but it was manual. On the Lariat, you're getting the power sliding rear window. So that's really cool because it's starting to be useful. Because when it's manual, how often, other than when you've got, materials you need to pass through that window, before driving somewhere, are you really going to take the time to get in the back seat, open the window? I don't think so. Now, carrying on, we've got the flex bed with rear cubby storage, 2 of them. So that's pretty cool. A little spot to put your, electrical cords, whatever it may be, your straps. So you've got a little spot for that. You've got a 6.5 productivity screen. Now, the build and price website doesn't really give a whole lot of description. I'd love if there was a little brackets right there that explain that this is the screen behind the steering wheel. So the productivity screen behind the steering wheels on the F-150s are 12 inches, and they're incredible. The escape on higher trims, you've got this, and they're very useful. They look good. So if you like to be pampered, if you like a little flash in your vehicle, you're gonna like this quite a bit. Now, you also get, and here's a big one, an 8-way power driver's seat. Getting the acoustic windshield, so insulation is going to be a little bit better. And you're also getting ambient lighting. Carrying on, let's talk about those packages. So you've got Ford Copilot 360. Covered this in other videos, but if you get just the Ford Copilot 360, you don't have lane centering, you have lane keeping. So like I said earlier, you start to go out of your lane, it's gonna vibrate the steering and bring you back. And you can also, I covered this in my last XLT video, in the options screen behind the steering wheel, you can choose to have, either the vibrating steering wheel turned off, you can turn it all off, or if you don't want it to assist you back in the lane, you can also turn that off. So you can have one, the other, or none at all. You got the Forst Edition Package. It's $1,495. Now, if you're going with this Forst Edition Package, here's a section that I can really point out. Don't be fooled. It's not $1,495 because you need first the luxury package. So let's cover the luxury package first. It's $3,340, and that's a pill that's a little harder to swallow. So what are you getting for $3,340, and is it worth it? Well, if you like luxury, absolutely. You get the 4-way headrest. You're also gonna have the 400-watt inverter, just like on the XLT, with USB console in the rear. So in the rear, you've got your little USB slot. You've got adaptive cruise control with stop and go. Just a side note, on F-150s, you can now actually order your F-150 and choose to not have it not built with stop and go. So that's a little interesting piece if you're comparing. Who knows, maybe you are looking between an F-150 and a Maverick. I'd be surprised, but I'd love if you could add it in the comments section if you're actually cross shopping with an F-150. I'd wonder how many F-150 sales are going to be lost because of this, relatively inexpensive vehicle compared to, a full-size truck. And actually, on a side note, anyone in the comment section, please let me know what you're cross shopping with. Let us all know and tell us why you're less or more inclined towards the Maverick. I'm quite curious to hear about this. So, and I do read pretty much all the comments. If I miss one, it's purely by accident because I'm reading comments pretty much. It's a part-time job, you could say. I'm doing this at 11 at night and about 6 a.m. in the morning. So you've got that adaptive cruise control. You've got the bed tie down locking rails with 2 locking brackets. Please, in the comment section, you can also let me know how you'd use that. Of course, if you're putting up rails, that can be useful for kayaks. But other than that, other than having, additional places to tie onto, I don't really know what I would use that for. You've got the bed liner spray in. So the bed liner spray in comes with the Lariat luxury package instead of paying about $400. I'll get to the exact price in a moment. And keep in mind, taking any package in the XL, any of the luxury packages across Maverick XL, Maverick XLT, or Lariat Maverick is going to help you have more chance that your order is going to get picked up and passed instead of, and I'm not saying it's going to slow you down by very much. It all depends on the build week. Sometimes the factory decides to focus for, 2-3 weeks on going with, pure XLTs and XLs, and if they have the luxury package, and then sometimes they say, okay, well, this week we're going to pass all the, sort of odd, you could say, odd builds, because the factory likes to, you could say, when they've got, let's say, 20% of one type of build, well, they'll try to pass as many as they can in a row, and then they'll go on to something else, pass everything that's similar. So the odder your build is, I guess you could say, could cause a few weeks of delay. Carrying on beyond that bed liner spray in, which is great, by the way. The only time I don't like spray in bed liner, because I do love the traction that it offers, but what I don't like is once ice gets into your bed, well, the ice sticks really well to that bed liner, whereas a plastic bed liner, because you can just kind of give it a few hits and it will vibrate. Ice is a little easier, I find, to get off a plastic bed liner, but great traction. Not the easiest thing to shovel out because it is definitely very grippy. If anyone hasn't experienced Line X, this is why I'm talking about it. So you've got the Bang & Olufsen sound system. So far, every model from Ford, I have either really liked or loved the Bang & Olufsen sound system. It is a premium sound system. In the Mach-E, it's got to be the best sounding sound system from a vehicle, from a manufacturer, in a vehicle that I've experienced. I love it. In the F-150, I find it's really good. But the F-150 sound system standard, I also already enjoy. So I can't really say on the Maverick whether this is a must-have or not, but I can tell you the quality is great. You've got the electric boost control, the electric brake boost for the 2-liter EcoBoost. Now, I'd love for an engineer to chime in to say why they've pointed this out. My understanding is an electric brake boost, when you have a turbo engine, from my understanding, the whole turbo system, well, the brake boost is going to make it so that the turbo system doesn't, you could say, while the turbo's working normally without a brake boost, I sort of understood, and this must have been about 15 years ago on one of my MR2s. My MR2 basically worked that if I had my foot on the gas and the turbos were working, well, I didn't have a whole lot of brakes. And when I would let go of the turbo, and if the turbo would, be spooling down and not functioning, well, then I would have brakes. And from my understanding, that's because I didn't have an electric brake boost. But please, engineers, comment, because I might have gotten that one horribly wrong. You're also going to have evasive steering. This one I definitely know quite well. I've experienced it in my 2015 Mustang, my black one that sometimes you've seen maybe in previous videos flash by when I used to have a little intro. My black Mustang, basically, someone laid on the brakes for no reason, and my vehicle avoided that vehicle. So, evasive steering is pretty awesome. If there's a vehicle in front of you and the lane that's free is actually free, the camera in the windshield is gonna, be checking this all out. The computer is gonna know whether it's safe, and it's gonna avoid that vehicle that stopped for no reason. It was a green light and they were stopped there and there was nothing in front of them. So I'm not a bad driver, just to defend myself a little here. Now, full-size spare includes, you got the heated mirror. So heated mirror, you got the heated seats, heated steering wheel, heated wiper, key fob with remote start. So you've got the remote start right on the key, but this isn't essential now that with Ford Pass, you can actually start your vehicle with your cell phone. And honestly, in the morning when I'm 5 minutes from going outside, brushing my teeth, or taking care of the Winston, I probably don't have my keys on me, but I definitely have my cell phone. So Ford Pass is great for that, and I recommend everyone downloading it and having it ready for when they pick up their new Maverick. Continuing on, you've got lane centering, you've got the LED box lighting. That's actually pretty useful. I've had it on a few F-150s, and I missed it on the F-150s that I didn't have. You've got your rear parking sensors, so that's when you back up. That's that annoying but very useful beeping noise as you back up, and it goes from beep 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 to basically screaming at you. Well, it's great. It can help you from running over a bike or a wall, driving into a wall. Heck, people get into accidents for all sorts of reasons, and this one will make sure you keep your attention on what you're doing. You got the satellite radio. Can't believe that it requires a Lariat luxury package to get satellite radio, but then again, we can get it through our phones and Bluetooth it to the vehicle. So people are getting pretty worked up about this sometimes from what I'm seeing on forums, but I don't think it's the end of the world. But anyways, that's how you can get satellite radio. You've got Sync 3 with enhanced voice recognition, communication, and entertainment system. So not Sync 4, you get, top of the line Sync 3. You get an 8-inch LCD capacitive touchscreen in the center stack with swipe capability. You have 911 assist. You get Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Mind you, I'm not sure why they've put this in the Lariat luxury package. Please comment section, chime in, because I was expecting to be able to plug in my phone and have my Google Maps go onto that main screen, no matter what model I was getting. But I'm having trouble puzzling this together, so please help me out. I don't want to get this wrong. I want us to help each other out. I won't have the right answer all the time, and sometimes I will make a little verbal slip or get mixed up. So I really do appreciate the help from the comments. You also have the applink, smart charging USB ports, 2 of them. You've got the trailer hitch with a 4-pin that comes right in with that package. But hey, Ford is just giving it away at $140, and that's the one thing I probably would not have installed at the dealership, because dealerships should definitely run that wiring from the very back under the carpeting all the way to the computer. It should be about a 5-hour job. The wiring should cost about $100. The hitch should cost about $250 plus 4 or 5 hours of labor. You're looking at probably a $600 to $800 job. Ford either offers it for $140 or is giving it to you. It's part of the luxury package. And then you have the wireless charging pad, and that's pretty cool. Mind you, what I've been seeing from Bronco videos, and I'll know soon enough, but it looks like the wireless charging pad, if you're using that wireless charging pad and you were to be, let's say, running maps to the vehicle, it looks like it's not the most, and generally this is true of all wireless charging pads, they're not the fastest charging source. So just keep that in mind, but it is pretty useful to have. I certainly enjoy it. Now let's check out what else is available. At $3,340, you can then add the Forst Edition Package at $1,495. So heck, the two together, you're looking at about $4,800. And what are you getting here? Let's check it out. You're getting 17-inch unique aluminum wheels. I already love the wheels on the XLT. I really like the wheels on the Lariat, so that's not a selling point for me. You'll be getting 18-inch black painted wheels if you have the hybrid. The Forst Edition Package will also give you a black painted roof, which I think looks really good. You're getting the power tilt and slide moonroof in that package. You're getting a tonneau cover, soft folding, so that's just a bed cover so snow doesn't go into your box, or if you're in a very hot area year round, so that people don't nearly as easily steal stuff from your box. Someone would actually have to take out a knife and cut open your tonneau cover, because that tonneau cover soft folding is great because when you roll it up, you don't lose any box space, and when it's closed, well, it locks, you could say locks into place, and the only way you're getting that tonneau cover open without cutting into it is by opening the tailgate. And remember, the tailgate locks, so really useful stuff. If you're going to be putting any valuables in the box, this is a must-have. But you can also just buy that from your dealership's parts department. And you're also getting unique Forst Edition hood and side graphic decals. They look pretty good. Some people hate stickers on the vehicle, but hey, these are nice. They're not over the top. It's not a sticker of a dragon or flames on the vehicle. There are definitely some tacky stickers out there. These aren't tacky. I think they look amazing. If you don't like them, let me know in the comments section. Try to say why. But I don't think people would have much of a problem with them. Now, what else can we look at? Well, we can't look at the FX4 package or the 4K on the build and price, and that's because both of those require the 2-liter turbo. You can't have them on the hybrid. So as we pass through all these little options, just keep in mind that your rear crossbars are going to be late availability. They will hold back your build. The bed divider kit, it's holding back your build. The bed liner hard drop-in, it's holding back your build. The bed tray liner, it's also holding back your build, and the molded splash guards, front and rear, are holding back your build. So, why take your Maverick late by getting those parts from factory? Just get them from your parts department. So, what kind of price does this make? Well, if you go with just a straight hybrid, we mentioned it earlier, $25,490 is the advertised price. You have destination charges of $1,495. Make sure that your dealership, doesn't try to tell you that they're $3,000 or $4,000. They're $1,495 US or 2,000 Canadian, or about 2,000 or 2,100 Canadian. Your estimated selling price is $26,985 if you take a straight Lariat Hybrid. Remember, they're all front-wheel drive for the moment. Down the road, I'm pretty sure we're getting an all-wheel drive hybrid. So $26,985, what does that look like for a monthly payment on 84 months? Well, you're looking at a payment of $393. Now, I haven't calculated that with taxes because it's different from one state to another, one province to another, and one country to another. And if you like to pay that fast, you could do it for 72 months at $421. Why would you do that? Well, you do that for interest, because it's in your interest to pay it faster. 84 months, you're looking at 5.9% interest. 75 months, 4.9. 72 months, 3.9. Now 3.9 is starting to be interesting. Keep in mind, a bank, your dealership, if they want to, work a little harder for you, they can probably still give you, currently, they can probably have access to interest rates that are better than 4.9 through a bank, and still, be offering you somewhere between, 72 and 84 months. And actually on 72 months, they might also be able to offer you something better than 3.9%. So just go ahead and ask them and try to work this out when you order your vehicle. Try to work out the price so that when your Maverick does come in, you're not in a situation where, they've got this fair market add-on price, that you do get your vehicle at MSRP plus, maybe a few dollars in, processing fees. That'd be fine if, maybe $100 or $200 in process fees. But the goal is just to make sure you're not paying, $1, $2, or $5, or $10,000 or $15,000 markup like some dealers have with the Bronco. So get an offer. With that offer sheet, have them sign it. You've got an offer for a price and an interest rate. It locks in the interest rate. Ask them if it can be financed with a bank. But with Ford, things get far better than any bank can probably offer you. if you're looking at a 5-year purchase or 60 months, you're looking at 1.9% interest, and that would give you a payment of $472 per month. Of course, once again, without the taxes. And 48 months is incredibly interesting at 0.9% interest, working out to $573 as a monthly payment without any tax. And the 36 month, heck, good on you if you can pay this in 36 months. You're better off than I am, but for 36 months, it's gonna work out to $750. Why would you do that? Why would you live with such a big monthly payment? Well, you'll pay it off real quick, and in 3 years, you'll still have a vehicle that's worth, you'll have a chunk of change with the value of the vehicle, and you'll also have paid 0% interest. So that's really interesting. Sorry, lack of additional words. Now leasing. Why would you lease? Well, you might want to consider leasing because let's say you lease for 4 months. It's easier to switch earlier. Generally these days with F-150s and Rangers, and even Escapes, you get to the 2, max 3-year mark on a 48-month lease, and you're usually either equal to your amount owing or you have positive equity. So that's why you might want to lease. Also, depending on the region you live in, it might be a little easier to deal with if the vehicle gets, stolen, or if the vehicle gets totaled. I know in my region, if you're on lease and your vehicle gets stolen or your vehicle gets wrecked, like totaled, it's pretty easy. It's almost as easy as, wait a few weeks and go pick out another one on the lot. Now, 10,500 miles per year is going to work out to a price of $398. Generally, leasing is the same price or less than purchasing. So if you're looking for a smaller payment, you might want to consider leasing, because $398 per month, to have that on a purchase, you'd have to go all the way up to 84 months. The 84 month was $393, and on the lease, you lease it for, instead of purchasing it for 84 months, which is getting a little expensive. It's 7 years of financing. Well, you could lease for 48 months, and you work out $5 more, $398. So $5 more per month, you've leased it. Worst case scenario, you get to the very end of your lease and you ask, what is it worth on trade? And heck, it might be worth $4,000 or $5,000 less than what Ford thought it was going to be worth. You might have had an accident in the meantime that, as long as it was properly repaired, well, if it's worth $5,000, $6,000, even $7,000 less, you hand the keys back to the dealer and it's Ford's problem. However, if you have damage on the vehicle, let's say you have $500 of damage because you've got a scratch, you've got finished tires, and the windshield's finished. Well, then actually you probably have almost $1,000 of damage on the vehicle. Yes, you have to pay that. But you won't have to pay that if, for example, the vehicle on trade, let's say the buyback is, $12,000. And let's say the vehicle, or let's say it's 10, and the vehicle on trade is worth 12, and you have $1,000 of damage, and because of that damage, the vehicle's worth 11. Well, at the end of your lease, you might actually be getting money back. And at the end of many F-150 and Ford Rangers leases, the vehicle is worth more than the amount owing. So near the end of the lease, you can trade early, the dealership can buy back the vehicle and hopefully maybe break even, and maybe even hopefully put some cash back into your pocket, or really into your next lease, to make it a little bit more affordable. Now, let's just quickly go through, if we were to add all-wheel drive, there's a bit of a difference. If we go the 2-liter, there are a few differences that arise. And those differences are that 4K towing, 4,000 pound towing is going to be available, as well as the FX4 package. So in part 3, I'm going to be covering everything that the 4K offers, why you'll want to go with it or why not. I'll cover the FX4 package. What does it have? What is it good for? Should you take that instead of a luxury package? So we'll look at that in part 3, and we're going to look at the major price increase, because both these options force a 2-liter turbo as well as all-wheel drive. So it's not at all the monthly payments we're looking at in regards to financing and leasing. So price goes way up, and that makes a big decision for you to take. In the meantime, I hope you've enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching, and I wish you all more cars and more power.